So I finally had time to get back to this puzzle, and I thought it might be fun to just go ahead and go through a scramble and attempted solve of this. So it represents a unique kind of a challenge because first off, being a 4x4x2, it's a floppy puzzle, which has its degree of various bizarre parodies. But also being a ghost, it has its own perspective bending issues, and it acts as a supercuboid. And I've gone through some tutorials on supercuboids and how center rotation might be an issue, but what I'm going to do is, why don't I go through this while at the same time doing this 4x4x2. So I think the best way to get perspective with this is to do it at the same time as this guy. So being a floppy, it basically means that it can shapeshift, move in all directions, but its length is greater than its height. So what I'm going to do first is we'll start off with a scramble like this. This is a scramble that retains this shape anyway, and I'm just coming around like this. And this is what I would call simply a domino scramble. A domino scramble means that I'm moving in 90 degrees in one plane, but 180 degrees in the other two planes. And I'm doing that because I can better enhance the scramble by moving these pieces away from each other. So scramble it over here and here. And that's pretty good, I think. Move this guy away over here. Really fun puzzle, by the way, this guy. So now if I were to do the same thing here, let's see where my planes are. Well, first, being a ghost, I have to line it up to where it can actually act like a 4x4x2. So here's obviously the 2-layer version, so I guess it would look like this. And here's 1, 2, 3, 4. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep scrambling it, do 90 degrees in this direction and only 180 degrees in these directions over here. So I'm going to move this like so, maybe move this across here. And the reason why I want to do this is that even though it's shape-shifting, I'm not bandaging anything yet. So I still have full access to all of my moves, if this goes well. Plus this demonstrates this puzzle by Hex, I think his name is. Really well done. You can see there's a couple of blemishes in here that are internal, but that's okay. I don't really look too carefully at that. So once again, just trying to keep the scramble as pure as possible. And by correlating it with the other puzzle, I'm able to maybe keep my perspective about me. Now, I didn't do any memorizing of where certain pieces are, and that might be my undoing, because when you get lost with a ghost cube, it can be very hard to find your way back home. Look at this piece here, this tiny thin piece over here. I can't even imagine the amount of time and care that's taken into putting a puzzle like this together. So I'm going to do a couple of turns like this. Well, actually, how about like that, then like this. Okay, so that looks pretty good. I think maybe I can separate these guys out over here. So I've separated out most here. Maybe I can take this out. And I'm trying to separate as many pieces as possible. I figure if I'm going to do a scramble, I might as well make it a big mess. Okay, what do we think? Maybe get this out here too. Maybe get this out over here. Oh. Let's not accidentally reduce some pieces and solve. Okay, so that's not bad. But this isn't really completely scrambled though, is it? Let's take this out over here, I guess. Because this scramble, as chaotic as it looks, is only like this scramble. So the next part of it is I want to still free things up, but I want to start shape-shifting. But I want to shape-shift from the ends. Once I start shape-shifting here and just doing 90-degree turns, then I'm bandaged. So before that, let's start mucking it up. So I'll put it up here. By the way, there are mass-produced versions of 4x4x2s. So by adapting my strategy to a cuboid strategy, this might help out. Now, you'll also notice something, that these centers have equivalencies to them, translational equivalencies, which means that you can substitute one center for another. Here, there's none of that. So there may be issues with doing certain algorithms that we didn't have before. Anyway, so I'm going to move this up, double turn over here. Put this down like so. So I keep doing 180-degree turns this way. That way I'm at least freeing things up in this plane. Maybe I'll, after having done that. So I'm trying to limit my bandaging as much as possible. This can come down here. Maybe I'll do this. So I'm still scrambling it from the ends here. Like so. Maybe I'll bring this up here. Bring this twice here. Turn. Okay. So once I have this done, maybe bring that over here. The equivalent of that kind of a scramble here is, get myself aligned, is the same kind of thing. I'm just going to move this up 90 degrees and double turn. And then maybe I'll turn both of these down here and go 180 degrees. So notice that although I'm doing 90-degree turns in some areas, I'm still able to move all of my layers in this plane. Maybe move this over here and then maybe go splat. Now my perspective is slowly getting lost. Maybe move this down over here. It looks like I can move 1, 2. 1, 2. Maybe move this like thus. Move this over here. 1, 2. Okay, that's pretty good. Maybe do another one with this guy here. 1, 2. Separate this out here, because the second I start to do some of my final scramble type moves, that's when the bandaging becomes very restrictive, and I want to enhance the scramble as much as possible. And I'm starting to lose a little bit of, there we go, a little bit of perspective, I guess. And I'd like to still separate out some of these pieces that still look like they, yeah, what if I go like this? Aha! Okay, so now what I'm ready to do, I think, is the next part of the scramble is where I do the full bandaging, which is actually scrambling it from the middle. And I can still do a little scrambling at the end, but after a while I can't do any here and I can't do any here, so I only have access to 2x2 moves from here. And this would be as full a scramble as I can possibly get. Oh, see, I can move this at the end here too, like that. Okay, now so too, I'm about to throw caution to the wind. Let me get myself set up here. Where's my 2-layer version? I don't know if there we go. Okay, so here we go. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a 90-degree turn like this and just start scrambling it like so. And now, although I may find every so often, like here, something at the end that I can scramble, for the most part, I'm bandaging the heck out of it. And I'm scrambling it from the middle here. Still able to move that. And this is where the panic sets in, because in a puzzle like this, you never know. Am I going to be able to get it back? Will I be able to return it back to its position, or am I going to be struggling with this for days? Some puzzles I've struggled with for weeks. Okay, I think that's pretty good. Okay, so this scramble is equivalent to this scramble. So now that my perspective is completely gone, what shall I do? Well, if you were to review my solve of this puzzle, of a 4x2, what I did is I simply started off as the solve of the lowest common layer, which is the 2x2. And what I did is I solved the corners. And it's easy to see how to solve the corners because you can see the colors. So if I just wanted to move it as a 2x2, I would do that, and I would solve the corners as a 2x2, ignoring all the middles. So what I did is I would get all the corners in, and then I would put in the centers. The problem is I can't really comfortably do that with this, because the problem with the ghost puzzle is you don't know which corner goes with which corner unless you've memorized everything, which I don't do. So the only way to solve a ghost is to make sure that one piece leads to another piece leads to another piece, basically by being right next to it. So I can't do it as a 2x2 solving for corners, because I would have to know what corner, like, does this corner go here? Does this corner belong next to this one? You don't really know. So I have to solve it using the centers. So I'm going to refine my solve, so this is actually a different way of solving a 4x2. So for the centers, let's say I wanted to put the white one in, and this is done just like a 2x2. I've got translational equivalency, so it shouldn't be a problem. Well, here's 3 of the yellows. Here's the other one, so I'm just going to solve this like a 2x2. Just do RID to put this in. And now for the white one, I've got to move these up. This is just permutation. That I'm going to do just by going RID, RD, RI. DIRD, and again RIDIRD, RIDIRD. I've got 3 here, so I'm going to move this into position here, RIDIRD this until this comes up, and that'll bring the yellow ones back. RIDIRD. That's why we have algorithms to guide us through this. So what I've done is I've got these centers in. Now that I've got these centers in, I can start doing some magic with these guys. So let me pause now and go back to this. So let's get into centers. Now this is a process of finding what's supposed to go where. So here's a couple of centers here, and I'm going to move it as a 2x2 until I can get the centers where they're supposed to be. Does this go here? Well, we're just going to have to experiment with it, and this shouldn't be too hard to try to figure out. Move this up here, and you can see none of these really fit. It looks like maybe this belongs here. Only one way to find out. We bring it down, bring this here, bring it up. Do we like it? Well, it's a start. Let's put this here, if nothing else than just to hold the position. So what about this? Well, this looks a little like this, so maybe these are homologous centers. So maybe this goes opposite. So I won't use that, but it still couldn't hurt to check it out, I guess. So move this here. Obviously, it doesn't belong here. Does it belong here? Well, we can move it down, across. Well, here's a center here. Now as I put these in, these have kind of a nice shape to them. It almost looks like these two belong together, although I don't think so. I don't think so. This sort of is orphaned over here, but I think this likes being next to here. So what do we think? I don't know. Thing about a ghost cube is it's got to fit almost exactly, but I'm wondering if I should just keep it there to hold its place. Maybe move this guy and see if this obviously doesn't belong. So I would say this is definitely more of a culprit. This one seems to belong here as well, but these two do not belong next to each other, so something doesn't fit. Something doesn't fit, so maybe this does not belong with this guy over here. So what's the next contender? Maybe this guy. He's on the bottom. So let's move him over here. We move this up. This doesn't, well, yeah, this doesn't belong. Move this guy up. And this doesn't really belong either. Okay, so I think this is the odd one out. This is the one that doesn't quite fit. So it might be this guy. Maybe this guy belongs over here. So let's see if we can't position him here. So if I move this guy up, nope, not even close. Alright, so this is the biggest struggle here, assuming these guys belong together, and this belongs here. What actually belongs here? Well, it's not that. Could it be this? Well, I think we tried that, and we said no. So there's this guy over here. Nope, this doesn't belong. And there's nothing else down here. I think we tried this one, yeah. Which means it really ought to be maybe this guy, or perhaps this belongs here, which I doubt. Okay, when I move this up, this one seems to fit a little bit more. So I'm going to do a sliding U technique to put this one in this position. So up from the right, slide it to the left, 2 up on the left, slide it back on the right, back here, turn. See, now this seems to fit, and turn. Okay, Now this looks better, this feels better. So I'm going to say this is going to be what I think is the center. I don't really like this hanging off of here, but so be it. So anyway, I'm going to say this is a center. So now I just have to get this one in. This one is up, it's the only one that's facing up. Here's a center here, here's a center here. So basically, this whole section has to be rotated up here. And the way that I'm going to do that, I've got a neat little trick. This is facing up, this center is in front of me. I just do Li, Ui, L, Ui, Li, to U, and L. So let's say we've got this in here, I moved all this up, and you can see these two belong together, but this doesn't. So this is where it strays from this puzzle. You can see that these don't match up. Because these match up, these must have to be swapped. So because of that, I'm just going to do a corner swap, and that's going to be to our U, to our UI, to R, turn the puzzle, to R, UI, to R, U, to R, and you can see it swapped it. Swap these guys. Okay.